Hello and welcome to Life with Francy podcast, a place where you will find all kinds of conversations like mental health, self-care, self-love, trauma, hobbies, and more. With this podcast, I want to create a community where we all support one another to get to the next level in personal and business life. Hope you enjoy this episode. Now, let's get this show started. On today's episode, I have the pleasure to talk to Ann Visser. And I met her through Women in Podcasting, and she's amazing. Anne is a co-founder of For Better Forever and a certified John Maxwell coach, speaker, and training. For over 20 years, she has been empowering and equipping individuals and organizations to communicate clearly, to build close connections, because effective communication is essential for every healthy relationship. I can agree with that. So let's welcome Ann to the show. So tell us, what is life with Ann Visser?
Well, thank you so much, Francie, for having me on the show today. Life with Francie, it's a pleasure to be here. And yes, I've been equipping individuals and organizations for over 20 years now. I have been working with couples and women to help them communicate and learn conflict resolution skills. I teach young people and students. The program I teach there is How to Avoid Falling for a Jerk. It's been written by Dr. John Van Eppen. It's a fantastic program. I love teaching that program. And I had the opportunity to teach and train addicts in recovery at our local jail, and also at a recovery home for addicts where they're able to stay for a whole year. And I just love watching the change that happens from the inside out as they work on personal growth and communication and relationship skills. I have a membership for Christian women called the Sisterhood Journey Membership, which we focus on the 4 lanes of communication. We talk about God talk, we talk about self-talk, which I know you're familiar with here, Francie. We talk about people talk, and we talk about leadership talk. And so I also had the opportunity as a John Maxwell coach to travel with John and 150 other coaches to Paraguay and to teach values-based leadership skills to junior high students. And it was such a privilege to be there in Paraguay with John, with so many other coaches who are impacting the world. We were from all over the world, and I met so many wonderful people. And of course, the people of Paraguay are absolutely amazing, beautiful. Fun fact, Fancy, I've been married to Malus for 42 years, and together with his family, we own a family potato farm on beautiful Prince Edward Island in Canada. And if you're familiar with Anne of Green Gables, or any of your listeners are familiar with Anne of Green Gables, I am from Anne's Land.
That's amazing.
I'm the mom of 5 adult kids. They're all growing now and have their own spouses. And I'm the Nana to 11 amazing grandchildren.
Wow, that's awesome. I bet you're a great Nana too.
It's the best job in the world to be a Nana, I gotta say, Francie. I had my granddaughter here yesterday, and we just had a wonderful day together.
Oh, that's amazing. So you work through John Maxwell, which for the people that don't know, he's huge in the self-leadership community. He got so many books and a podcast, YouTube. I mean, John Maxwell is amazing. So tell me more about your guys' program.
Yes. So which program you're wondering about? The program in the For Better Forever, which is our company. And we call it For Better Forever because I really believe that the changes that I make, my children and my grandchildren benefit. So it's not just me that changes, but for better forever. It has a ripple effect and an impact on the people that surround me, both in my inner circle and then beyond too. And so we teach people how to have pivotal conversations that actually help help in relationships. So it may help you fall back in love again, so you don't have the same conflicts over and over again. It'll help you at work when we learn how to have these pivotal conversations. It helps us in our friendships. It's just so vitally important. And I still remember the moment that changed everything for me, and why I am so passionate about equipping others to communicate in this way, because I was sitting in our farm truck, my husband and I, we were on a date. It was years ago. We were sitting outside our favorite restaurant. We had had 5 kids in 6 years, Francie. And my
5.
husband,
I had to process that.
I know,
5 kids in 6 years. Oh my gosh.
I just wanted that to land for a minute there. And then my husband, he was working long hours as a farmer, and I often felt like a single mom. And so we had these external forces that were pressing in on our marriage. And so we were just going around and around the same old arguments and disagreements again and again and again, never really resolving anything. But on this particular night, I was at the end of my rope, and I said to my husband, I can't do this anymore. And he looked at me and he said, what do you mean you can't do this anymore? And I said, I can't do marriage like this anymore, because we're just hurting each other over and over again, and we don't ever resolve anything. And as I poured out all that pain, he hurt me. And for the first time in a long time, he shared his pain with me. And to be honest with you, Francie, I missed it because I was so busy caring for our kids, and I was so wrapped up in my own pain as we were disagreeing and arguing. I didn't know how to communicate. But that pivotal conversation, it changed everything for us, because we said we're going to get the help that we need in order to get well. And by the way, Francie, I think it's the bravest thing in the world we can do, is to say, I need help, and to go get the help. Because as we applied the lessons that we were learning from experts about communication and conflict, we started to get better, and we actually fell in love again. And so now I teach people how to have these pivotal conversations that will change their lives, because I know that if I can do it, because I am a peace-loving, conflict avoider, recovering people pleaser, I know anyone can communicate and learn the skills to communicate so that their relationships thrive.
That's great. Wow. So yeah, I don't know, like, I don't even know what to ask, because I'm so excited, like, especially with communication, because that's like such a hard one. I don't know a lot of healthy communications, but I'm working on it. So I'm a work in progress when it comes to that.
Well, I would love to share more with you about what pivotal conversations look
Yes.
like. And I think that pivotal conversations are conversations where the goal is to create a shift or a change in some way, because something isn't working. And in our case, our marriage wasn't working. We needed a shift. We needed a change. And what we really needed was, we needed to learn communication skills to communicate what was happening inside of us while these external forces, work and young children, were creating distance, like they were creating an emotional distance really inside of us, but we didn't have the communication skills to be able to communicate. So pivotal conversations, the goal is to make a shift or a change in some way, because something isn't working. And so they're conversations that matter. They require some degree of honesty or vulnerability. It depends on the relationship you have with the person that you're talking to. For instance, different vulnerability at work than we have at home. So I still remember the day that I was standing in our kitchen by the kitchen sink, and I had had a bad day with our little ones. And I looked at Malus and I said, I just need a hug right now. And he came over to me and he gave me a hug. And I was like, you mean it's that easy? That's all I need to do is ask for what I need? That's the vulnerability piece. It's risky, right? Because if he doesn't respond with a hug, I feel hurt. But if I don't ask for what I need, I don't ever get it. He doesn't know. He's not a good mind reader. He's not a good mind reader, Francie.
You are blowing my mind right now, because like I'm trying, but it's like something in my throat, like holding me so hard for me to be vulnerable and just say what I want or need at the moment. I just know
Yeah.
anger. So I just go straight to anger
Mm,
instead of being as that simple as, okay, I'm not feeling okay right now. Can I just
yeah.
get a hug?
Yeah.
Wow. Who thought that that could be a solution?
Well, I certainly didn't know at that time, Francie, that that was a solution. I could ask him and he would respond by giving me a hug. And he had nothing to do with what had happened that day. But I hadn't thought to ask him for support or, a simple hug or kindness, or I hadn't thought to ask him for that. But that vulnerability piece is really important in pivotal conversations because I felt loved. I felt cared for. I felt like he cares and I mattered to him. I felt seen, I felt heard, and I felt cared for. So it does require some degree of honesty. Now, obviously at work, we're not going to ask the boss for a
Yeah,
hug.
no, no, definitely not.
The honesty might sound more like this. I am working a lot of overtime and you're not compensating me for the work that I'm doing. That would be honest. And I need to be compensated to feed my family. That would be honest, right? That
Yes.
that kind of honesty or vulnerability looks different at work than it does at home. So these conversations, they happen every day. They can be really, really big conversations, or they might be really small conversations like I need a hug, but they're create a shift or a change, either in the person or in the relationship. And so it could be a conversation that you have at work because a colleague, that person that shows up late for work all the time. And
Oh
maybe
shoot,
they
that's me. My bad, my bad.
maybe your work is landing on somebody else's desk
But no,
and,
I
and
have the perfect example on that one because not too long ago we had a misunderstanding at work, and it's pretty much that I have personalities that are logical and I go about feelings and emotions. So my feelings and emotions were hurt. Now, I am a 34-year-old woman, so they're looking at me a little bit weird for my reaction over it. And it took me 30 to 45 minutes to be able to communicate with them
Mhm,
what was the situation and that I understood that I overreacted,
mm,
but my feelings were hurt, and I told my boyfriend the story, and I knew that he's logical too, so he was gonna aside. It wasn't like he had to take a side or anything, but he was waiting for the conclusion, and he was like, okay, so what happened? I said, my feelings were hurt, and he just bust out laughing. I started bust out laughing too, because I understand that it was all about feelings, but that's just an example of I had to like process what had happened and
mm,
be able to explain it to my coworkers without defending myself or anything or putting wrong on anybody, but being
mhm.
vulnerable. And that was really hard because, like you said, it's at work. So that's a different than at home when you're treating your spouse. It's a
That's
lot easier to be like, you hurt my feelings, and now you have to make it better. You can't do that at work.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So it's a different level of vulnerability. And so good on you for letting your body settle down. Because once we're triggered, it takes about 30 minutes for the body to settle down. Because when we're triggered, our heartbeat rises, our blood pressure rises. You may get clammy hands. Some people see red or black. I get a sore stomach when I am triggered. And so there are different kind of symptoms that we're being triggered, but we know because we go from 0 to 60 like that, right? That's when we know I've been triggered. So it
Uh-oh.
settle down. 30 minutes,
Can
just
you
that's exactly what you did, Francie. You let your
repeat that
body
one?
settle down first so that then you could
Okay, there you go.
yeah, that was perfect. You let your body settle down so that then you could think more logically, because when we're triggered, we move back into our emotional brain. And I
Okay.
call it's the amygdala, but I call it the emotional brain. And when we do that, it hijacks the thinking brain. So we can't actually think straight when we go into the emotional brain. And so I say, follow the 3 C's of pivotal conversations. And the first C is to check emotions.
Okay.
And that's what you did by slowing down. And I think it's one of the most challenging parts of pivotal conversations, because it's easy to get upset because it matters. It's important to us, right? So I have my women and my people journal through these questions. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What's really troubling you here? And what do you really want? And sometimes until we sit down and reflect and think about those things, what we want may be different than what we really want. And so it can be extremely helpful to sit down, journal through those things. Like, for instance, what I was thinking in that first section when I shared with you the story about my husband, like I was thinking, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep doing this thing that's not working anymore. I don't know what the problem is, but I can't keep doing it. But what I was feeling was hopeless, because what we were doing wasn't working. So I was feeling very frustrated. But what was really troubling me was I really loved this guy and I really wanted my marriage, but I couldn't see my way through it. But what I really, really wanted was I really wanted to get back to the love that we had already shared and I knew was there, but we weren't experiencing that right now. And so as we go through those different questions, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What's really troubling me? And what do I really, really want? It can be incredibly helpful to help process through the emotions, because the emotions aren't bad. They're just a signal. They're like the red light on your car dashboard saying, danger, danger, there's something going on here. Pay attention. But we don't want to, they're better indicators than they are dictators.
Okay.
Right? So there's a message in it that there's something a little off, but we don't want emotions to go in front of us and lead us through those pivotal conversations, because I've done it before, Francie, and it doesn't work.
It doesn't. And I love, yes, keep going.
And when we do that, we sabotage either the conversation or even the whole relationship. I've seen that before too.
Yes, I love that you're talking about that and you explain a trigger. I mean, I seriously want to be taking notes right now, but I know that the interview will go live and I can go back and pause it and be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's what I need to be doing now. I'm going to take so many notes on this interview. And I love the fact that, yes, some marriages don't work and divorce is the solution, but I love that you say, you change the communication and that you wanted your husband, you love your husband and you wanted your marriage, and there is things that you can work through it to get to the other side and have a better communication, a better marriage, a better relationship with yourself and your spouse. So I
Yes.
love that, because you said 42 years married.
42 years, Francie.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, it even amazes me too, Francie.
I love that.
And I don't want your listeners to think it's a fairy tale. It's not a
Oh,
fairy tale, right? I want your listeners to know it was a decision on that night that we're going to get the help we need. And then it was a process of walking it out and learning how to conflict better, because we were both terrified of conflict. Neither of us wanted to fight, but we learned, that was our very first marriage lesson, was that conflict is the doorway to intimacy. In other words, when we do it well, I get to see inside of you. And not only that, when we do it well, I also get to see inside of me. Often there's
mm,
some new information that comes forward that I didn't know about myself when we have a good conflict. And so it's learning how to have that good conflict through pivotal conversations and being able to check these emotions and being able to check our motives too. Because if there's any resentment or bitterness in our heart toward the person, then it's not going to go well for sure. And so we need to deal with that first. And that's really a personal issue as opposed to a relationship issue, but it spills over into the relationship. In other words, it's kind of like, a cup of coffee that's too full. And then every time somebody bumps into you, the coffee spills out. That resentment and bitterness is the same. When it's inside of us and somebody bumps up against me, even, if it's the cat who walks up underneath my feet and trips me, the cat gets it, right? Because that bitterness and resentment spills out of me because it's in me, those things we need to deal with when we check emotions, so that when we have the conversation, then it has a better opportunity, a better chance of having a better outcome.
Wow, you are blowing my mind right now. That's awesome. And yeah, I did a mental health evaluation and I know a little bit about that resentment because I created a new category for anger. Like
Oh,
nobody should be Francie angry.
oh,
So I can see how the resentment and the anger that I have held inside has spilled over, sprinkle over my life through the day. So it's something that I have to work on. I have to deal with in person, Like, yes. Sorry, keep talking. Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah.
I
And
love that.
it's so interesting how we think about it as a relationship issue, but it really isn't. And it's more that personal thing that I need to deal with, so that then I don't vomit, emotionally vomit all over somebody. That word is really ugly to me,
Yeah.
but I've done it before, so I know that it's not pretty, and that's exactly what it feels like,
Yeah, yeah.
when somebody does it to you, right? I re-
Awesome.
I
Yes.
remember a time when I needed to check my emotions, and I was sitting at the table, the kitchen table, with my adult daughter, and I was talking to her about a conversation I knew I needed to have with our son, and it was about boundaries. And he was also an adult at this time. And I said to her, I just don't trust him. And then my daughter got really quiet. She's so wise, Francie. And she looked at me and she said, Mom, that's awful. You better check that. I love it when your kids do that to you. It's like, I know, I know. So I am a woman of prayer, and I call it my thinking chair. I went to my thinking chair. It's where I do all my reflecting and kind of meet with God, and started to pray through that. And I recognized, and I started to pray through those questions. What am I feeling? What am I thinking? What am I really like? What do I really care about here? And what is it that I really want? And I recognized that I was stuck back in 2005. We had really significant challenges raising this young man, and I was stuck back there, but he wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
And my emotions were stuck back in 2005. They weren't current with where he was now. So I recognized, if I had have had that pivotal conversation before I checked my emotions, I would have sabotaged that conversation. I'm certain of it. It wouldn't have
Yeah.
come out of my mouth really great at all. But because I did and checked the motives of my heart, then that pivotal conversation, honestly, that one was easy. They're not all easy, but that one was easy to move forward through. And so when we check our heart, check our motives, check our emotions, we have a much better opportunity to connect deeply. And that's what pivotal conversations do.
Wow. Yeah. So, how do you guys work with couples? Do you offer a program? What is it?
Yes, well, I have a membership for Christian women, and we talk about those 4 C's, there's 3 C's of pivotal conversations. And right now we're just going into that program. We're very excited about that. And I also work one-on-one with couples and with women, because I find that women more often come for help than men do.
Yeah.
But I know this, I know I've seen it over and over again. When one woman works on herself, it changes how she does the dance of relationship. And that encourages her spouse to change his steps in the dance of relationship. And so I encourage even a person who wants to work on their relationship by working on themselves, it can help. As long as you're not in a toxic relationship. That's a different thing altogether, and it requires different help and support in order to walk through. And so in our program, we teach those 3 C's of pivotal conversations. I work with people, I work with our membership as well, and I also do training and teaching as well.
Great. I will have everything on the show notes. Like, do you have a website that they can reach you at?
I certainly do. Our website is forbetterforever.com. And I also have a free resource to share with your people today. Can I share
Yes,
that,
I
Francie?
love
Yeah.
that. Yes.
Okay, so if you're listening and you thought of a pivotal conversation that you need to have that you've been putting off, and you want some help with that, I have a free resource that can help you. It's called the 7-Day Challenge that will help you get ready for your next pivotal conversation. And so every day we send you a short video with a simple action step that you can take on that day and to prepare step by step for your next pivotal conversation. So you can go from not knowing what to say or how to approach a pivotal conversation to knowing exactly what it is you want to say and how to get ready for that next pivotal conversation. So if you want that 7-day challenge, you can go to forbetterforever.com/challenge. And by the way,
Yes.
that's the best way to get in touch with me as well, Francie, because when they sign up for that 7-day challenge, they'll also get our weekly email called the Tuesday Brew with Ann, because I love coffee, Francie.
Ah.
And that's where I share weekly communication tips and how to communicate in a way that aligns with your values.
Yes, I love that. Oh my God, are you turning that like in a YouTube channel or something? Because like, or a TikTok, because like that could definitely be a great short video, for TikTok. Because I can learn anything about communications. I didn't have good role models. I just went on. Well, it was in summertime with my friend, and she went to visit her aunt, and I was like, oh my gosh, you were raised by such a cool people that like taught you how to express yourself and communicate and everything else. And I was like, yeah, I don't have that at all. I was just yelling at my mom this weekend in a nice, loving way. I can't go too much yelling because she still beat me up. She's Latina, so she still beat me up. We're from Puerto Rico, but she was feeling anxiety and she was in denial about it. So I was like, if you tell me that you haven't seen me in over 2 years and that you are okay, then I'm concerned about you. And she's like, oh no, we're not gonna talk about that. That's how I deal with that. We're just not gonna go there. I was like, Jesus, Mom, that's why you need a therapist. So my point is, I didn't have that growing up. So I'm learning about it in my 30s, and I'm loving your conversation, and I gotta go and get more of your content because you explain it in a way that even a kid can understand what you're saying. So adults, it will get through them.
I'm so glad, Francie. I think that simple is really important. I think it's really difficult when we make it complicated. I don't think it needs to be complicated. It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I said simple. I did not say easy. This is not gonna be easy. I'm gonna have to listen to your interview at least like 10 times before I get it in my head. About, I can't even say if the type of communication
Pivotal conversations. And I say that it's a process. It's not like I'm going to have this one conversation is going to magically make everything disappear and everything be better. Instead, it's a process. So when my husband and I made that decision to get well, then we walked out the process of having multiple pivotal conversations to get to the bottom of what was troubling us, what we really needed, what kind of skills we needed to grow. And now we do a whole lot more laughing, 42 years in, we do a whole lot more laughing and just enjoying each other's company. Francie, I said to him recently, I said, I'm so glad that you didn't give up on us when we were at our worst, because we walked through this desert together, not knowing how to love each other and how to communicate well. But in the midst of that, we started to learn better communication skills. And then coming out of that desert now, it is so sweet, Francie. So I want to encourage your people, if they're struggling in their communication, learn some new skills to get better at communicating. If you're in a toxic relationship, that's not going to help you. New skills are not going to help you. That's that person's toxic person needs to get help for their toxicity before any relationship is going to work, because whatever relationship they touch, it's going to blow up. They need to deal with that toxicity first. But when we're in, I like to call it difficult or disappointing relationships, they're external forces pressing in on our marriage, or internal forces such as we don't have the skills we need in order to communicate or to conflict better. Then when there's those internal and external forces and it's a difficult marriage, that there's hope for. And so you can learn new skills to walk through that desert, to come out the other side and to be better together and to laugh together and to enjoy life together. I hear women say, I want to be cherished. I hear them say, I want to feel like we're part of a team. I don't want to be the only one in this relationship. And so those 3 C's of pivotal conversations: check emotions, communicate and clarify, and then create we solutions, can really help a relationship grow to be the kind of relationship that you truly want.
Thank you so much for that. I truly appreciated you. I had such a great time interviewing you. Like, thank you for your time.
Well, a great big thank you to you, Francie, for having me on Life with Francie. Love the title. It's a great title. So it's a pleasure to chat with you today. And I hope everyone here in the interview will walk away feeling encouraged to shift one thing about the way they're communicating to make their relationships just 1% stronger today.
I love that. So everything, her website and what she offers, the freebie, it will be on the show notes. So thank you so much for that. I know my audience is gonna love that. So yeah, thank you again for listening to another episode of with Life with Francie podcast. Hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Have a blessed day.